Moving on from here, another aspect is the other day I was talking to a young 26-year-old, a host of a show, and when we were talking about because he is young, and we were talking about how his generation and my generation are very different, and he brought in an aspect saying that freedom for millennials rank the top in the list, and I would want your thoughts on this.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the things that I wrote in my books also, that definitely they are craving for autonomy. They're craving for freedom. They don't like to be micromanaged. They don't like to really uh, go to their bosses to take signature for every small thing that they have to do. They want to be empowered. They want to have freedom. They want to have their say, their voice into what is happening and what's happening with them or what's happening around them. Of course, that is something which and that why again, this is thanks to the times that they have lived. They have been exposed or to an explosion of information. They have understood a lot of things. They are very aware. They're very they know what's happening around the world. So they are not somebody who is probably sometimes they are coming with more information than you and me. They are also very digitally adept. They are much more digitally adept than their previous generation, in fact. So all this makes them extremely independent, and therefore they also want that in their workplace. If you see, that also happened in the consumer part, like, because you are now spoiled for choice. This kind of choice was not there when in the for the previous generation in their prime years during their consumption. Today you have 10. If you want to buy a laptop, you have so much of choice. You want to buy a smartphone, you're spoiled for choices, and that's where you also got your autonomy from. You got a freedom of choice, freedom to choose, right? You are not limited to one or two things that you have to pick from one these two, right? So all these has made this generation autonomy loving generation. So yes, that's right, that's correct, absolutely correct.
Okay. Uh, in 2021, we saw great resignations coming from millennials, and why so many millennials quit in 2021 around the world, and what happened to those workers is what I want to understand, from you.
Very difficult. This great resignation thing has been going around, and yes, there are a lot of people who have quit, and if you see, majority of them would be millennials. There is no doubt about that. Now, there are conflicting reports. There are so many surveys there which I have read. Some say it is because they have got better choices post pandemic. They are suddenly seeing better salaries, or better. Some are saying that it is because of the exhaustion they faced during pandemic. There are so many things that are going around. It's very difficult to pinpoint this great resignation thing, right? And this, I think,
We saw
now is
many
a little.
medias as
Yeah.
well, and I saw, yeah, I think Forbes
Correct.
wrote about it, and many other publications as well did a long piece on this.
Right. So I feel sometimes, it's overhyped also sometimes, but there is one thing which I think is not hyped, and that aspect is something which we need to understand more. It's not about resignation, because yes, people will continue to come and go, and this will happen. But what is more important is, how can we keep them more engaged? It's not only about just keeping them. It's not only just preventing them from resigning. It's also keeping them engaged in the organization, and that's the key. During this period, it also made me curious, because something was happening around us. We could see people, we could see what was happening with them, their lives, and hence uh, along with one of my co-researchers, we started a research trying to understand what was the happening to workers around the world during this time when we were forced into remote work. What was a pandemic imposed remote work. It was not a choice based remote work. It was pandemic based work arrangements that we had. So these emergent work arrangements that we have because of the pandemic, what they did to the workers. And we studied people from uh, different countries in Asia, around at least about 15, 16 countries, in Asia. And what we could understand, we did interviews with them, in-depth interviews with them. We could understand few things. That first, there was a high degree of unrealistic expectation that suddenly people found themselves, to be in. Expectation to be online all the time, expect because they were at home, so they were expected to be available at all the time, available for meetings at a very short notice, available for meetings even during the late hours. You must respond to emails even if the working hours are over, even in the mid of the night, right? So there was which meant that the working hours, the thin line that there was still there between work and life, it kind of vanished. So you see a kind of work life integration that happened. There was that's what, in one word that I can put, is that there is an integration of work and life. The boundary or the demarcation between work and life completely disappeared. So
Actually,
it was,
this situation,
yeah.
Dr. Debashish, this situation was not only with that one section of people, it was across all section of people who were a working class, right?
Yes,
I'm sure
yes,
you have
yes.
gone through that, and I have gone through that.
Right. It happened with everyone, and it happened with everyone. There was a lot of, in terms of stress that people had to deal with. One around was the fear of infection, fear that you might fall sick and something might happen to you. There was a constant fear of that. And then, of course, there was infodemic. There was constant bad news which was coming in. You had the statistics going up: how many people got infected, how many people died, how many people went critical. Every day statistics are coming, which is very difficult to deal with. It's not easy to deal with such news. It's like, I think every one of us went through that. But on the other hand, there was also a lot of stress at the work front, because you were suddenly working in a new arrangement. Many people are not used to remote work. Most industries are not aligned to remote work. So there was a lot of force fitting also. Like, for instance, you were doing something which was you don't have online work models, right? So you are doing the things that you were supposed to do in offline, online, in now online, and there's a lot of force fitting, right? So there's a lot of duplication of work that you would see. People also during this time, although they were trying to work very hard, but they also lost incomes. Many of them lost jobs. At the same time, expenses were rising, because now you have to create an office at home. You have to buy a lot of things which are more expensive. You have to buy a lot of other things which you were not buying before, to keep yourself safe. So there was a lot of technological challenge also, because you had suddenly to learn a lot of new. Although millennials are quite adept at technology, but it was overwhelming for everyone, including millennials. It was to kind of adjust to so much of new technology suddenly, especially those who are working in industries where they were not exposed to that kind of technology. So which must not, those who are working in IT maybe had much easier, but then the others. And at the same time, you can't blame the managers and leaders, really. Nobody was really prepared for this, but there was a lot of micromanagement during this point of time. So hence all this has created a kind of not only a work life integration, but a lot of what do you say, turbulence in their work life as well as in their personal lives. So I think this is the major effect that I see on workers, on people or employees, not only in Asia, but I think around the world, and with everybody. Why we must look more? Of course, we have to look about all this for all the employees, but millennials, since they are making major part of the workforce, so obviously when such impact happens on the workforce, they are the ones who get biggest hit.
Okay. And Debashish, throughout the conversation, I have observed that you have stressed on the word engage. In our various conversation at various times, I want to know from you is how should the organizations engage millennials and retain them in the workforce?
Okay, I think one very important change that we see in the post-pandemic world, and we will continue to see, is the emergence of hybrid. And hybrid means we will have hybrid work models, hybrid work arrangements. Online, pandemic, one of the good things of pandemic was that it helped us understand that remote work is not impossible as was thought in most of the industries. Neither it is so bad, neither all those fears about uh, you know mm, data privacy and so many things prevented remote work. It's not. And it also opened multitude of opportunities for organizations. For instance, universities now can admit students who are living in different countries without necessarily them having to relocate, right? You can actually employ a worker in another part of the world without asking that person to relocate, or without really worrying for his relocation expenses or whatever. So it has opened a multitude of opportunities, and added to that, there are workers who are not willing to now leave online. They don't want to come to offices. There are ones who want to remain online and work online. They want to work remotely. So all this means, and there is a very strong indication and research, industry reports, which says that hybrid is here to stay, right? So we'll have the work models, both the remote work model and the physical work model, staying side by side, which means this requires a lot of change. And I think the biggest change that it requires is a cultural transformation of the organization. Organizations need to change their culture, and leaders need to change their leadership styles, right? So I think that's the biggest change. The current culture, the current organizational design is more designed for the physical face-to-face work models, where there is a defined workforce which comes to you in your office every day and does work and leaves office. It's not like that now, right? So it requires a redesign, what we say organizational redesign, and that primarily has to be a cultural transformation that I see. Also, I think once we have done the larger part, there is a lot of requirement to redesign the processes. The current processes, as I said, there was a lot of force fitting, because we are, kind of copy pasting or cut pasting the offline work model into a remote work arrangement. It's not, doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't work like that. So there is a lot of need to redesign work processes, remove a lot of inefficiency and redundancy. There is a lot of redundant work which happened because of that. So all this needs to go if we have to manage a hybrid workforce, if you have to engage a hybrid workforce. There has to be a lot of focus on capacity building, especially the skills for the future, the digital skills and the other skills that we require. So there is a lot of need to do that. There is a need to think about the mobile or online experience of employees. See, when this revolution happened, the e-commerce revolution happened, all companies thought about the online or the remote work experience of the customer. How do we improve the experience of the online customer? We never thought about this for our workers. How do we improve the remote or the online work experience of our employees? We have never thought them. How do we do that? So I think that we need to is also the focus. And I think there is also a lot of requirement for the companies to focus on one very important thing, and that is mental health of the workers. Because I think it's not only a thing. I think there is a lot of research to prove that also, that mental health has been the silent epidemic which is going on along with this epidemic, right? So this COVID is now going away. It will go away. It will eventually, it will disappear. What will remain as a major remnant of that will be the impacted mental health. And I think it will be very important to take care of that, how organizations take care of the mental health of the workers. So I think all this is what is the need of the hour, as if we think of engaging in the post-pandemic world.
All right, there were many takeaways for the organization to look. I'm sure people will make a note of this. And coming back to the millennials, what are the skill sets that they need to upgrade them for the future workforce?
I recently wrote an article which was featured in the April edition of Indian Management magazine, which is All India Management Association publication, and which was on the future of skills. And this basically, if you see, all major organizations have come out with a list of the future skills that will be required, whether it is the World Economic Forum, whether it is Forbes or IFTF, which is the Institute of the Future, or McKinsey. What I did was basically I tried to map all of these and try to identify maybe the top 15 or top 16 skills for the future. And those skills, not that we have not heard them before, but these will be the in-demand skills which we will require. Everything else will become default, right? Whether it is, for instance, active learning skills, right? Or novelty and adaptation skills, right? Or critical thinking skills, or cultural intelligence that we want to see. We have, as I said, haven't we heard all this before? We have heard, but these are now the top skills that are required in the future. And there are many skills which will be also, will coming up, especially with the technological skills, in terms of now technology is not an industry specific aspect. It permeates across industries, across geographies. We all have to be good at technology, right? So I think these skills are going to be very important. How organizations focus on building these skills of the future. Also in terms of engaging them as well, right? Not only in terms of building a capable workforce, but also in terms of how we engage them in the future.
All right. Thank you so much for spending your time and giving us the entire insights on how to deal with this generation, which is there and which we are going to deal in the future. I would quickly want to move up to the rapid fire section where I will be asking you 5 questions.
I'm really scared now, because the rapid fire always unsettles me. I hope the questions are not very difficult.
No. They are very light-hearted questions that you could choose if you want to or you don't want to answer. Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Debashish, an author or a teacher?
Both.
The last movie
I can't choose either of them because I like both. I like writing is my lifeline, and teaching is my passion. So both. I can't really choose one. It's both.
Sure. The last movie you watched?
Gangubai.
Okay.
That is the one I watched.
Being a father or a husband is more challenging?
I think I think challenging. If you say, I think it's father being more challenging, because I think parenting is a very difficult thing. It's not a simple thing. You have to learn.
Okay. The best poem from your son's collection?
A poem he titled Death that he wrote.
Your next book?
My next book is a book which is, I don't know whether I should disclose it at this time, but I'm writing something related to culture.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I don't have words to express how to thank you, but this was a very insightful conversation, and I hope most of the organization and the other people can, take a lot of insights from this and use this in whatever possible or manner they would want to.
Thank you, Nilima, once again. And I said, it's really, it was a pleasure, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much, and wish your Sambhashana series all the very best. And
Thank you so
you
much.
are yourself a wonderful human being and a very respected professional. And I wish you as well my all the best in the future. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Dr. Debashish. Thank you very much.
Thank you.